I wonder if they're ever going to change that intro. I mean, it's been a while, right?
You mean, by they, you mean us, right?
You know, Jamie and Eric haven't been on in a while. I wonder if they hate each other now.
I don't know. It's probably one of their little spats.
I heard that Eric guy is kind of an asshole.
Well, can you say that? No comment.
Ooh, look, they're both on.
What a rare treat.
All right. All right. Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen.
Hello.
Oh, man, I'm Eric.
And I'm Jamie.
And today is February 10th, 2019. It is Season 3, Episode 6.
Yep.
And we are so glad that you're all here. We met some amazing fans right before the show started. A couple people who came in from overseas. You know, that happens every month, but or every weekend.
Yeah, a little
But
bit.
it's always fun. We also actually have Bob Newhouse in the audience.
Oh, we have Bob Newhouse.
Bob, the person who bought one of the chairs in the back.
Yeah.
Is here.
Dang,
Bob,
yeah.
I see you there.
Woo!
Yes. Thank you so much. Really, it is donations that keep us going, and one of our donors is here, and I'm really, really excited about that. So we've got some really cool calls. We are completely filled up on the lines, but as soon as a caller drops,
keep calling in.
you should try to call in and fill that up, and we take the best callers that we can. So I do have a couple quick announcements before we get started. The first is that the February edition of the magazine is out. I did not get it to mark in time to put up, but I'll make sure that it gets out and that it's there for the Atheist experience. Also, this Valentine's Day, this Thursday, in less than a week, Shelley Siegel is going to be here doing a concert after the first stage performance of Secular Sexuality. I think, there it is. Oh, I love it. I was wrong.
That's nice. The guys in the booth really are fantastic.
They're amazing.
They
absolutely love them.
really are. We love them. You should turn my gain up more than his so they can hear me better. But yes.
Get up on your mic, buddy.
Yeah, I'm up on the
got
I know what I'm doing.
All right. So we have the Shelley Siegel ad. We still have tickets, and we need to fill it up. So if you're in the area, there are people who are changing their flight plans to be here, and we want you here. We will not be able to sell tickets at the door, so we need you to buy those tickets now. We sold them as cheap as we could so that everybody can afford it. It's just enough for us to cover the venue. Do we have that ad? This Valentine's Day one to remember. It's time to get sexy. Live in Austin, Texas, an intimate performance by recording artist Shelley Siegel follows a live taping of Secular Sexuality. Food is included and drinks will be available for purchase. Get your tickets now by going to eventbrite.com and search for Secular Sexuality. That's eventbrite.com. Search Secular Sexuality. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Definitely make sure you get your tickets. And we have something else that I really wanted to talk about. And we haven't really talked about it before, but it's changing. Things are changing. And Jamie, it's our audience. We have the most amazing fans ever. And I am so excited about it. So I am pulling up Talk Heathen right now so I can give you a number. We're at 39,000 subs.
Ooh,
I hope to get to 40,000 soon.
For 40K.
Here's why that's important. It's important because we have people submitting awesome artwork to us.
That's true.
And we absolutely love it. Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to highlight that we adore it, and we hope that you continue to do it. Can we get a couple of those pictures up? Yeah. This was submitted. This was not by Katerina. Katerina's coming up next, but this one has been my profile pic for most of the year, this last year. What else do we got? This is Katerina. So a fan named Philip, who is an audio engineer, a documentarian who wants to come out to the ACA, reached out to me. And his girlfriend, who's also a fan, whipped these together and popped them up on our Reddit. And I love it. I love it. And I actually just want to give Katerina a shout out and her boyfriend, Philip. Thank you so much. If you want to look up Katerina, she goes by The Beautiful Ugly. You can find that on Facebook. She does a lot of Lovecraftian stuff. And I love that. This came in from Stan. Right? And he did you too, but I trolled your social media for over an hour and could not find the drawing of you. I'm sorry, Jamie, but Stan,
that's fine.
Stan has called in before, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And we have videos as well. And I just, this is an old one that came in. Have you seen this? Yeah, pulled out some of their favorite audio pieces, right? Oh, Ray. Oh.
All right.
Oh, man.
Made it just
They nailed us.
We're good?
in time. Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome to Talk Heathen.
Hamish, you are live with Eric and Jamie.
We haven't talked to Hamish in a while, huh?
Yeah, he isn't called that.
I'm a bit troubled, as usual. People were exposed to Batman.
Oh, my God. And we have other fans who've reached out, and we just didn't save them. There was a Twitter that was called Anti-Heathen. Do you remember that?
There was a Instagram.
Instagram.
That was amazing.
It
there was a bunch of photoshopped
pictures of us.
Of us as basically it was one of the coolest things along those lines. And then we got a call that said we were a danger to the youth.
Yes.
It's along those lines.
And but
these
here's the thing: we should have put it out, and I'm really sad that we didn't.
Did they close it? Or is it
I can't find it anymore. I know, but here's why I want to share this. I want to share this because I really want to talk about content creators and how we treat each other, right? When it comes to taking our likeness and our clips and things like that, audio, there's actually a gentleman who wants to do a song and splice in clips of Talk Heathen throughout the song. Do it. That's awesome. Well, not only are you entitled to under fair use, right?
That's true.
Which is fantastic. We just ask, number one, please, if you're putting that stuff out there, link back to us. That way, if people like it, they can go back and find us. We want to share that out too, and we think it's really awesome. But just link back to us, please. And there is actually a difference between that, right? People making original content with stuff from us, and people who lift whole videos. Right? Some people lift.
They're just like
45 minutes, an hour, an hour and a half.
Watch it without watching it.
Yeah, and they post it on their channels.
This is what we do.
And they don't add anything to it.
Yeah.
They don't add any,
watched a million creationist creators' videos online, and they've got my views. You can give me a view.
Well, here's the thing. It's the
you like looking
AdSense,
at my face,
right?
Honest.
It's that revenue that comes in that helps keep the ACA running, along with donations, and we really do appreciate it. And also, if we don't hop in and go, hey, that's actually our content, we run the risk of legally not being able to do that in the future. So we really don't want to do that. We don't want to be jerks. We want to share and we want to create and all of that good stuff. If you want to hop in and make a point and say, hey, here's a compilation of the best times Jamie went in and was an absolute saint when it came to talking to somebody absolutely out of their mind. Do that. But just link back to us and, make content. We love it. We adore it. We share it with our friends and our family. And I want to see more because it makes me really, really happy. But we just wanted to put that out there. Link back to us if you make content. And if you want to take entire sections, if you get a message from YouTube that says, hey, this actually belongs to another channel. We're not trying to be jerks. We just want to make sure that we own the content.
And a lot of that is automatic.
As a whole. Yeah. So
let us know.
Much love. We do love you guys, and we're really, really happy that you're here and sharing in the conversation and joining us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on Reddit, on Discord.
Hey, guess what? My Twitter handle is not what you would expect it to be.
At reason_evidence?
It's at Jamie the Heathen.
Really? Look at you. Now you can find me Eric at Eric the Heathen and at Jamie the Heathen. I love it.
Yeah. Well, actually, you're at Dirty Heathen.
Oh, I am at Dirty Heathen, aren't I?
On Twitter. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
You took a different, universally awesome name and whatever.
At Dirty Heathen. I
haven't been starting and maintaining various Twitters over the course of my life, and I'm therefore jealous that you snagged that one before me. No, it's fine.
All right. Are we ready to move into the first call? We've been talking for a while.
Yeah, we have.
All right. So I would love to start off by talking to Kyle. Kyle's calling from Canada and helped us test the lines earlier. Kyle, you're live with Eric and Jamie.
Hi, Eric and Jamie. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, doing really good. How about yourself?
I'm doing marvelously. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Surviving a Canadian winter.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry.
Are you inside the winter vortex?
Yeah, I've been in there. I had a minus 51 with wind chill.
Ooh.
survivor over here.
Oh, yeah.
What did you want to talk about today?
Well, I kind of want to have a light conversation about a heavy topic.
Ooh.
You've got the right
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
So it to me, like I considered what to call in about here, and I thought about calling in about real simple stuff there that doesn't really mean too much to anyone there. So I decided to call in with something that I consider meaningful or important. So that's why I'm going to bring up the topic of non-religious salvation and how that connects to the ending collective suicide. And
well,
to explain that.
Let's start by defining
our
salvation.
terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When about salvation, it's almost exclusively a religious term. It's hardly ever used outside of religion. And it is a term that is meaningful to me in the way of how I define it as the preservation from harm, ruin, or loss. And I'm not referring to salvation in the way as in deliverance from sin and its consequences, like Christians believe. So I'm talking about preservation from harm, ruin, or loss. That's when I talk about non-religious salvation.
So, just can I jump in here, Kyle? Do you believe in religious salvation as well?
Who knows? They could be connected, but I'm talking about the harm, ruin, and loss that we face today. That many people don't belong to a religion, but salvation is still relevant to our lives when it comes to preventing harm, ruin, or loss.
Well, I think this is probably going to be a really short conversation because that definition, preventing harm, ruin, and loss, those are things that I think
Police officers try and do.
Yeah, and that we want to try and enforce through our system of laws.
So let me see if I can parse this out a little bit, because you've said salvation is important in order to prevent these things. Is there a specific non-religious salvation you're thinking of, or are you talking about generally being? Oh, okay. Can you describe what that is?
Well, I have a timeline that comes from the World Wildlife Federation Living Planet Report of 2016. And that was one of the largest wildlife and habitat loss studies done. And what they found was kind of startling to them, and the scientific community is having a hard time conveying the information to the public about how critical it is. But anyway, they say we lost 58% of all wildlife between 1970 and 2012 due to our unsustainable energy and food practices. And that's quite a bit of loss. And our demand for food and energy is going to increase between 2020 and 2030, and we're only going to have under half of what we had before 1970. So we're connected to the chain of events in that way there. And so my concern is how much life we're going to have by 2030 with all the different environmental aspects that's going on. Like in the Canadian Arctic right now, with the permafrost melting, there's huge amounts of methane and mercury being released that wasn't in our atmosphere before, and that's way worse than the CO2. And 4 out of 5 of our mass extinctions were environmental, right? And if you have so much other chemicals in your atmosphere, and then it affects the plants, affects the animals, and then it affects us. So as far as I'm
environment changes the way that animals and plants can live in it.
I think we're following you so far. Let's tie this back.
So salvation.
If all our lives are in danger right now, then salvation is relevant to our lives, and preventing that harm and ruin and loss within that 10-year span that the scientific community is having a hard time conveying to the public what we can and what should do about it.
Sure.
Yeah. So when you're saying salvation, you're still talking about non-religious salvation?
Yes, I'm saying we ought to prevent the harm, ruin, and loss that is foreseeable and preventable.
So I totally agree.
Agree.
I guess, I'm wondering if this is like a, hey, I think we're not going to disagree with you. Is there anything?
On this,
is there any meat on this bone?
Yeah, it was sort of like
the world population right now is 7.4 billion people.
Yeah,
and out of those people, 4 billion of them are religious. 1.8 is Muslims, and 2.2 are Christians. Billion, and that equals 4 billion people that are thinking that there's going to be an external supernatural salvation. And so these are the people, over half of our population, that's just going to throw up their hands and say, well, it's written in the books of this rapture of times.
Do you think that, Kyle?
Do I think that
there will be a supernatural
hold
salvation?
Up their hands and accept?
Yeah.
No. I'm saying there is no God or government that will help us take our responsibility for us. We need to take our responsibility about what's happening in our lives and what we can do about the preventable and the foreseeable.
Kyle,
and if
we agree.
Prove to them.
Yeah. So
if we, the 3.4 billion people on Earth that remain, that aren't the 4 billion people that would throw up their hands, we can prove to them that there is no need for a savior. We can save ourselves, right? And that's the point.
Wholeheartedly agreed. I
agree. So Kyle, it says here that you're calling from Canada, but some of the things you've said, I would expect a U.S. citizen or to say. Do you mind if I ask you? I guess, as long as it doesn't come across as weird, do you mind if I ask you when you're talking about we need to hold our governments? Like, are you talking about you holding the Canadian government and Americans holding the American government accountable?
I'm just saying that the efforts that they do is not sufficient, and
I agree.
Whatever they can't do, we need to pick up our socks and help ourselves, kind of thing, because they won't help us because they're doing what they can and they're not that changeable. We're the ones that are changeable.
Yeah,
Kyle, I agree. I would love to end this call on a call to action. Do you know any places that we can point people to get active, or are we going to just generally say, find a way to get active in your community, call your local government representative, those kinds of things?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of nonprofit groups you can join.
Anywhere you want to give a shout out to?
I would encourage people to find out what local organizations can help them become more self-reliant and sufficient. And the government will do what they do, but we can do more locally. That's my call to action.
Well, we really appreciate your call, man. I wholeheartedly agree that when you have a platform like ours, that there's an ethical responsibility to use that platform to draw attention to these kinds of things. So thank you for calling in. We appreciate it. We did not have anything that we're going to push back with you on. However you want to define salvation really doesn't matter when it comes to the point of being good stewards of the earth.
Are you sure destroying the earth is bad?
But thank you for calling.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should continue this conversation on Reddit, because I think that's an excellent format for longer answers and the sharing of resources as the conversation goes. That and, well, I guess I'm just in what is the point of disagreement mode, because I was like that, and I'm sure someone will say nuh-uh, and then the evidence and an understanding of global warming can be established that way.
Yeah.
Well, if I called a religious talk show, we'd have disagreement about most of it, right? And
I think it depends. So here's what I will say, because the one thing that you've said that sort of touches on the main thrust of the show, which is firmly held beliefs, particularly those that are religious, is that there's 2 point whatever billion Christians and 1 point whatever billion Muslims. Weird to say this, but hashtag not all Christians deny the existence of anthropomorphic climate change. I mean, I went to a Catholic school, and I know my teachers there were, I watched an Inconvenient Truth, both in middle school and high school, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, and for us to get to that point where we all come together within this 10-year plan, where we don't go past that point of no return, then we need to come together with all those religious people, right? And how are you going to come together when you're in disagreement about coming together?
Kyle, you're in agreement with us.
Sorry. You guys have...
You too, brother. Thank you. No, don't be. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. And I'll see you on Reddit.
Kyle, thank you. You made my day in a very, very prejudicial way.
All right.
I appreciate you.
Okay.
Take care, bud.
I appreciate what you guys do.
Yes, and thank you for calling in. This is an important issue, and we're all going to die.
I feel like a jerk about it, but I just want to make sure that we're not all, restating the same thing over and over and rehashing something that we all agree on.
We all agree we're going to die. It's fine.
That's great. So we are going to move on to the next caller, but I do want to say that if you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. It's those donations that keep us going, and it is the $1 and $2 donations that we are absolutely floating on. We're going to be naming the top 5 patrons. I will be reloading it during the show. So if you're watching live and you want to become a patron, you want to become one of our top 5 patrons, we're going to be saying your name in the middle of the show.
The last minute.
Definitely. Patreon.com/talkheathen to me. Also, I want to announce that Christy Powell is going to be on our Discord doing a Q&A soon.
Hey, Eric, who is Christy Powell?
Christy Powell. Oh, thank you, Jamie. Christy Powell is one of the hosts of Secular Sexuality, is a sex therapist, and is a ton of fun. You can catch the show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. And you can catch that Discord Q&A
link in the description. Boom. Just made more work for our tech crew.
I've got it right
I'm
here.
Their favorite.
It's 12 o'clock Central. That is noon Central this upcoming weekend. I'll get that information a little bit later in the show. Let's move on to
You should just always be on the Discord. Just always be there.
Arielle in California. Hi.
Hi.
You're live with Eric and Jamie. Good. How are you?
Doing marvelously.
Well, I'm having a really hard time sleeping, and I'm getting more and more depressed every day to the point where I don't even want to get up anymore. And I talked to my husband about it, and I said, maybe I'll call in to talk Heathen, and he said that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So what happened is I called you guys a long time ago. I've only been an atheist for like a year, and I spent most of my life since I was 14 being religious. And I'm really having a hard time. I lost all my community, all my friends, all my purpose, everything I was doing. I was in the ministry, so I was working really, really hard every single day and spending lots of money and a lot of time on it. And when I left my religion, I feel like I pretty much lost everything except some of my material possessions. But I know you guys, you Eric, and you Jamie say that there's community, but I don't feel like I have a community. I've tried going to the local atheist organizations, and I've called in on things, and I've been on Reddit, and I've been on a little bit on Reddit and a little bit on Discord and other things. And I just really feel lost and like I don't fit in here. And the reason is because I wasn't a Christian. I was a different religion. I've noticed you guys, maybe I'm wrong, but I've noticed that most of the people calling in and part of the atheist community are ex-Christians, which makes sense because there's a lot of Christians. But I think there might be some of us, maybe I'm not the only one, who feel like we don't really belong because we weren't Christian. I actually was in the church for a little while, but what I'm upset, I'm really kind of upset. So I'm sorry if I would come across as confrontational or something.
You're good.
I really like you guys, and I think you've done a lot of really good work. But especially Eric, I kind of want to talk to you about it because you mentioned this before when I called you. The pagan community is positively viewed right now by the atheist community, and that's okay because there are people that don't believe, but there's still really bad stuff that happens in the pagan community. Like you mentioned cultural appropriation; it's really big.
Yeah.
And I'm just I don't know what to do. Should I just walk away, or should I try to help fix it? Because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be the only ex-pagan, ex-heathen that's calling in someday.
No.
What happened to me was really bad. a number of things were really, really bad things, that religion poisons everything, in my opinion, now. But the other thing is...
Book by that title?
Yeah. The other thing is that a lot of ex-Christians don't take me seriously because they think that my religion's just silly, okay? And it's no more silly than Christianity was.
I agree with both statements.
The other night, I'll just do one more thing, and then I'll be quiet and let you guys talk. I've actually had some atheists tell me that they think that I should go back to my religion because they're unbelievers in paganism and heathenry. And I don't want to go back because it's not, first of all, it's not true. And second of all, it's not just a bunch of fun. I mean, it's fun for some people, and I've seen a lot of people go to like PantheaCon and the big conferences and have a good time. But others of us got really hurt, and I'm not the only one that's left. And just to give you one quick example, you had the guy from the Tool Society call in and say those horrible things. Those are the kind of people that the pagan and heathens don't want to deal with, and they have to deal with them because that's what's happening. It's this rampant nationalist racism. And I actually put a complaint in against the organization I belong to, the religious church I belong to. It had 6 complaints in it with 50 pages of documentation about racism. And it was completely swept under the carpet and ignored.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a lot to say, but Jamie, if you want to go first, because I've got a lot.
So as a quick side note, as far as the atheist that said, oh, just go back to your religion, our number is 512-686-0279. To those people, whatever their gender identification, we need to have a chat because that's bullshit. Yeah, that really threw me off because they're atheists. But what I will say is I hope that we can help you find community. And yeah, to ex-Christians, there can be this temptation of like, oh, well, that's neo-paganism. That's weird. Yeah. And to ex-Christian atheists, it can sort of be off-putting. However, as a person who can explain what I was taught in Catholic school about the Trinity and the non-explanations about the difference between worship and veneration, yeah, Christianity's weird too. And if you weren't raised in it, it would sound weirder. Neither of you believe now. Shut up, you're all humans. Just be friends.
Okay. So,
which is more to them than to you. But Eric has more to say than I do.
Arielle?
Yes, I'm here still.
Hey. So,
thank you.
Absolutely. So I know I've talked on the show about how I've been diagnosed with clinical depression. That's something that's going to stick with me, and it's terrible. So I guess before we talk about that, we're giving you the biggest hug. It's going to be okay. And it's a rough time right now, but it will be okay.
I'm not used to being depressed. I have like the opposite kind of personality. I'm usually happy, and that's why it just seems awful. I don't know how you go through it. I really don't.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. I don't have a very high self-esteem, but I do like to see the people I care about happy, and it makes me happy to see them smile. And so I do what I can to help them, and it helps me in return. But I totally get the not wanting to wake up thing. Sleep is a liar. And it's still something I deal with all of the time. And when I say sleep is a liar, I mean, it's almost every day I think, oh my gosh, I just want a day home. I just want to turn my phone off and board up the windows and crawl under my bed and talk to nobody because it feels so good, the idea of being in bed, and then I do it. And my depression is worse than ever. You know?
Yeah, that's what's happening to me.
Yeah.
I'm retired now, so I don't even have a reason to go out anymore. I just figure, what's the point? What's the point? I got to tell you, what's the point of going on? Seriously.
Yeah, well, Camus asked the exact same question. Camus asked the exact same question. Why don't we just commit suicide? Right?
Well, I don't mean that.
I mean that.
I I don't need to. I'm older now. I just wait.
Yeah, you just wait it out, right? It will happen. I promise. You don't need to punch your ticket
global
early.
warming
My
to
dad
kill us all.
committed suicide. My dad committed suicide, and
Sorry to hear
I
that.
miss him all the time.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, whatever you want to do, Eric, don't do it, because people will miss you so much around you.
Well, and I have people like you. I have people like Jamie, my best friend. I have these people in the back who I adore. I have more love in my life than I've ever had before, and I get it in the most amazing ways. And yes, I do have a low self-esteem, and I'm working on self-affirmation with my therapist. But in the meantime,
if it makes you,
this kind of love is...
at all, and I'm not just saying this, I'm serious. I think you're absolutely fantastic. I think you and Jamie are two of the best people I have ever seen on YouTube about anything.
We love you too. But I guess that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about was depression, right? It's not something that is easy to get out of, and you're handicapping yourself if you try and do it alone. If you haven't gotten some help, if you haven't checked out and started checking out medications, please do. There's nothing wrong with it. If you care enough about your car to get it taken care of by a mechanic, and there's no reason why you couldn't go and get other parts of yourself taken care of too. And even if you are doing it, for people who are watching, it is not anything against who you are. We need to do that. But moving toward the religious aspect of it, give me just a moment.
Okay.
Sorry. I was getting a dry mouth and it was causing all those weird clicking sounds in the mic. So, I'm actually staring at a former pagan right now who's in the studio audience. I have talked to a pagan, and his name is Ocean. Before he's called in, he and I have had a friendly debate online. And it's interesting because, I don't have a ton of experience in the pagan community, but from what I've seen, I've definitely seen what you're talking about, and I've definitely seen this kind of weird bigotry about people who leave, pagan faiths because they don't understand it when they, a lot of Christians come from a religion that pretends to eat flesh and drink blood.
Yeah.
It's definitely wild. But
in paganism, you don't even eat your gods. Oh, weird.
But here's the thing. There are a lot of communities, a lot of small atheist communities, and a lot of, from what I've seen, and Jamie and I talked about this when we were just starting to volunteer at the ACA. He started before me, but one thing that we noticed was that there are a lot of these insular, closed-in communities of people who are getting older, and it's not very welcoming to younger people. It's not very welcoming to people who are just coming in. It's this friend group that is saying, we're the atheist group, and then giving it a bad name.
Yeah, we have it here in my town. Almost everybody is over 65, and young people don't even want to join. Yeah,
but here's the call to action. Is for those of you who are watching that are in one of those atheist communities, make an effort, because this is what you're doing.
Go to a pub.
I mean, really, honestly, why do you think we're doing this? Why do you think we're reaching out and saying that there's community? Because people need to know. Yep. And the fact that, Arielle, that you have experienced this breaks my fucking heart. It doesn't matter where you are. This is your community, too. You have it right here. Talking to us. We have 38,000 people in the Atheist Experience Facebook discussion group alone. Alone.
Yeah.
With tons more. I've talked to people. I have an amazing friend out in New Mexico. She lives in a town that is so darn small. Yeah. There's no way not to know everybody. And when you live in a town that is that small, you definitely could be the only atheist in that town. It's tiny, dude.
10 people?
I think it's 200.
So, I think
statistically, whatever. Anyway, the point is...
You're not the only not super zealous religious person.
The point is, though, is that not everybody's in a place where they even have an atheist community to go to. And so we reach out to each other online, right? Definitely check us out online. Go to our Facebook, go to our Reddit, our Discord, anywhere that you feel comfortable interacting. I definitely would love for that to happen. But if you're feeling this, then if you're in a big enough town, and it doesn't have to be that big, I guarantee you there are people who are like you that feel this too. Right? Start a meetup.
Maybe.
Get people together.
I could try.
There are other people like you.
The the pagan community here is pretty close knit and everybody knows everybody, and I don't think there's too many ex-pagans yet. I think they're going to be, because I know I'm not the only one that ran into all the bullshit that happens in religious groups. Some of them, and we're tired of being lied to. We've been lied to by a lot of our priests and elders, and it's just awful,
Well, and then you also have woo. You have a lot of atheists and ex-things who are not skeptics. And so you have this extra layer of people who believe in magic still, just don't believe in the deity, and it's still not out. And so it can be difficult. But let me tell you something. I spoke to Dr. Daryl Ray. I probably already told this story on Talk Heathen before, but I'll say it again. I was talking to him about what inspired him to create the Recovering from Religion Foundation. And it is that he lives in the middle of Kansas, nowhere, Kansas. And I know that's redundant, but still.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could just say Kansas.
Yeah, right? Middle of nowhere. I've been to his house. It's a beautiful home.
That's where Courage the Cowardly Dog lives.
Yeah.
Saying.
But it's greener. But what he did is he wanted to create a meetup to see if there are other atheists in his area. And I think he said that the 2 or 3 people showed up, and he was amazed.
Wow.
Right? And they came together and they met again. And it was maybe a group of 4 or 5 people. It was not that many people. And one of the regular conversations that they had was that they felt alone. Yeah. And that was enough for him to go, let's create the Recovering from Religion Foundation, something that has touched tens, if not hundreds of thousands of lives. You don't need to have a group of 500 people. You don't have to have a group of 50, right? But it would be good to reach out and find people. And I definitely got to tell you, it sounds like you have a lack of purpose. And it is horrible not having that. You have something that you were hanging the framework, this framework that you were hanging your life on, and right? When that goes, how do you move forward without replacing that with something? You need to have something to fall back on. You need to have something to move forward with and restructure yourself with. And the good news is that you have the choice to decide what that is. And I guarantee you that when you start to achieve progress toward the purpose that you create for yourself is an incredibly fulfilling thing. You have the right to assign yourself purpose. And I really hope you do. And if you need help thinking about it, reach out. I mean, we have an amazing community. But
okay, well, you're giving me some ideas.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. But definitely stay in touch. And I definitely hope to see you on our social media.
Thank you. I'm going to Darwin's birthday party today, and I was almost not going to go, but now you cheered me up a lot. And maybe I can go and enjoy myself. That,
and actually, before you leave, we're going to put you back on hold, so don't hang up.
I think our call screener wants to talk to you.
We've got some messages from the back room. So.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Arielle, thank you for calling. You take care.
Thank you.
We actually
that was a good call.
Yeah, we actually celebrated Darwin's birthday with the Center for Inquiry here in Austin. CFI did a really fun Darwin Day, and we were really excited to go and check it out.
Sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin.
I loved it.
It was fantastic. And sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin. We didn't bring our banner to the event, so I'm saying it now that it was sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin.
Yes. And it was fun.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to another caller. Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness. I've got to jump in and say hi to Otangelo.
Hello.
Otangelo called in 2 weeks ago, the last time that I was on. Hey,
hello,
Otangelo.
Otangelo, how are you doing today?
Fine, great, and you?
Good.
Marvelously. What did you want to talk about today?
Well, first, before we jump into this, I do kind of want to, in the interest of full disclosure, Otangelo reached out to me online.
Again?
And he and I had a really, it was a several hour long discussion. And I kind of just want to go over just a little bit of the basics of what we talked about, because if we build on that and we leave everybody behind, it's not going to be super productive. Is that okay, Otangelo?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
So undergirding all of these discussions, we had to talk about intellectual honesty, right? And we kept going back to that, this idea of interacting with each other, right? It's not that I'm going to say, Otangelo, all Christians do this, answer for it, how dare you, right? And one of the things that upset me was that people online were saying, atheists do this. They have no choice, and so you have to answer for this straw man that I'm building up that atheists all believe. And we agreed that the real good, the real meat in the discussion is when we ask each other and talk to each other about those specific things. And I think that we ended our conversation while we disagreed with a lot. We ended our conversation understanding that the other person wants to have an honest conversation. And a lot of it is about learning how to have that conversation. I know that you said that it was your first time having that kind of conversation on the air.
Yeah.
And so you bounced around all over the place, but it's not like you were intending to mislead. It was just something that was brand new. Is that an accurate summation?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, after the talk, I watched the show about 2-3 times, and I agree with you that we talked about several issues, and we could have stayed just on one issue and dig deeper just on one issue. So it is really also my fault. But before that we may start and talk about something, I would like to thank you for the opportunity. You invited me again to talk at the show, so thank you very much for this. I enjoyed to talk to you on the phone, and it was very interesting. I knew you better about your background and so on, and it was very interesting. So I think that I removed a lot of prejudice about you, and I hope that you might be more open for a new vision than initially I thought.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, just as a quick side note, that is sort of the advantage of this show, because callers know that if we start a good conversation, it's not going to get cut off and disappear forever. If a caller has 2 topics, we can spend one show digging down on one and the next show digging down on the other. And not all callers are created equal. So if someone calls in and is not... And I think that one thing that I had definitely seen in some of the threads that you'd created was people who were thinking that atheists have their feet firmly planted and are unwilling to listen to evidence when, those of us who are skeptics pride ourselves on being open to evidence and being able to change our view of the world if the evidence points to a direction that we were not prior, looking at, that there's not shame in having been wrong about something. And so I guess before we start this, Otangelo, are you open that way? Is there something that could change your mind if you were convinced?
First of all, we talked about bias, and we all have bias, but when you want to find the truth, then we need to remove as much as possible our bias.
And recognize the stuff that we have trouble removing so that we can be clear, steer clear of it. Yeah.
So with that...
And if I told you about my prejudice, it is upon my experience. I mean, I don't talk to atheists since yesterday. I do it for a long time. And it is very, very rare that you find an atheist who comes and says, well, wow, the picture that you draw really is convincing me that my views before were false and I want to change. This is very rare. And based on this and this experience that I told you that I was prejudiced about you based on this experience, well, it can change.
Yeah, and I love it. So I know we built a long time creating the stage.
I was going to say, it has now been sufficient time for me to get over the fact that Eric started his bit by saying undergirding, and I was not prepared for that. So it says here that you wanted to talk about irreducible complexity.
Yes, I think we touched about this issue in the last transmission, and I talked about cells, and you brought up, irreducible complexity. And what I see
actually,
today,
Otangelo, can I jump in here real quick? Just for the audience that maybe hasn't seen the show before, just as a quick review, can you just sort of give the outline of your argument? Or the case that you're making, I should say.
My argument is that biological cells are factories, not as an analogy, but in a literal sense. And I would not say just one factory, but like a whole block or a whole neighborhood of interconnected factories which work together in a joint venture. And such things cannot emerge by random, unguided occurrences.
So I would say, I was about to ask, what do you mean the distinction between them being metaphorical versus literal factories? But I think, just to clarify, that you mean they were created. Is that correct?
Yeah. I would say they are the product of intelligence.
So how do you tell the difference between something that is created by an intelligence and something that isn't?
Well, and really quickly, before I want you to answer the question, Otangelo, and then Jamie, I want you to hold that. But just for the people who are watching, when we bring up this argument, the argument is that there are things in nature that are irreducibly complex. It's also called the watchmaker argument. And in the argument, it states that there are things that exist in nature that could not exist otherwise if it weren't for a creator, and then point to that as proof of the existence of said creator. And so as these two people have this discussion, I just want to make sure that we're framed correctly, that we're talking about the watchmaker argument, the argument from irreducible complexity. I'm sorry, you two go ahead.
So here's what I would say is that's sort of the basis, and that's where the line of thought is. I want to get to specifically, specifically what you think about that, Otangelo. And so returning to my question, how can you tell the difference between a thing that is intelligently created or created by an intelligence and something that is not?
Okay. Can I give you 3 examples?
Of things that are created by intelligence?
To make examples to make this distinction between something that is not designed and something that is designed. Okay.
Hit me with your best.
I made the same question to Eric on our phone call, and I will do it again. If you arrive at the beach, and there you see a sandcastle, but you do not see anyone around, and I ask you, what do you think? Was this sandcastle made by someone that passed by and made it, or is it rather the product of natural forces like rain, wind, and so on? What do you think?
So I would think that, given that I know that sound cards are created, I think generally in factories that are designed to manufacture computer parts, that sound card was manufactured in a factory, is what I would extrapolate.
He's talking about sand castles.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said sound card as in the part of a computer.
He's talking about
and I was sort of like
a beach with a sand castle on that beach.
A sand castle on it. Okay, that is more of a sequitur, but yeah, sure. So given that I've seen sand castles created by humans, and that I have sort of a basic understanding or a basic idea of what tides are, I would say that a sand castle would be something that I would recognize as being created by a human.
Great. I agree with you. And if you see the sand on the side of the sand castle, then you have a distinction between something that was most probably designed and something that is rather caused by natural forces, the random sand on the beach. So we can agree on that, correct?
I think we can agree on that. Just as a clarification, because I'm not sure where you're coming from, do you believe that the universe was created by an intelligence?
Absolutely.
And that all of the elements of the universe were designed to be the way that they are?
Absolutely.
So then, in that model, the only difference between the sand castle and the sand is that we know what created one, but the model you're proposing means that the sand on the side of the castle is also a creation.
In ultimate instance, yes.
So it presumably then every grain of sand there was designed.
It was created. Now, if we talk about
it was created by an intelligence deliberately to be that way. Just to clarify, is that correct?
I believe that everything physical was created by God, yes.
So is there something that is the product of natural forces and therefore not created by God?
Well, I think we need to draw a framework that we can understand what was the product of natural forces that we see in nature and probably not. So we have
Otangelo,
which is random on the beach.
I'm sorry. I think Jamie's trying to make a different point.
Yes.
We don't want to get you off base or anything.
Yeah,
Please hold on to that. Put a pin in it because we do want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Jamie's just
the problem that I'm having with your argument is that presumably if the universe was created by God and God is intelligent and created all of this the way it is intentionally, then God created those natural forces. So what is there? So the result of those natural forces is, are you saying that the result of those natural forces is random?
Well, everything was created by God. Now,
so the problem I have, just really quick, because it's sort of at the beginning of your argument, and I don't want to move on to the second part while I still have this question, is when you gave the example of the sandcastle, you said there's a distinction between the castle and the sand because one is designed and one isn't. But just now you've said everything is designed. So is the sand on the beach designed?
I believe that the whole universe was created.
Okay, so then if the sand on the beach was created and the sand castle was created, how can I tell the difference between them?
Can I finish, please?
Yeah.
What is your name, please?
Okay, yeah. Let's finish this, and then we'll return to that. I don't want to totally derail the point you had. So please continue.
His name is Jamie.
That the whole universe was created by God, but you asked me about making an example of a distinction of something that was consciously designed and something that was not. So we have a clear distinction between the random structure of sand on the beach and the sandcastle, which was clearly the product of someone that passed there and made that sandcastle. So there we have a clear contrast.
No, we don't.
And, well, the structure of the sandcastle was clearly the product of someone that made it, and you confirmed that you would intuitively be able to recognize that someone made it. But if you see the sand on the beach, then you know that the structure of the beach, of the sand on the beach, the order is chaotic. It was not purposefully put there in that structure that you see it there. The structure there is the product of natural forces. So that is the point.
So I think we've had like a slight miscommunication because I do not believe that I intuit that the sandcastle was designed. If I, was born yesterday, right, and I had no knowledge of beaches or sandcastles, or no knowledge of anything, right? Like if I'd been in an uncontacted tribe that had only lived in the jungle and all I knew was trees, and I went to the beach, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a sand castle and a sand dune, except that one looked different than the other.
And I guess, can I just piggyback on this a little bit, Jamie?
Yeah, sure.
The piece that I kind of am confused about, Otangelo, is it seems to me like you said two things that are absolutely not compatible. One of those things is you had said that that sand and everything else in the universe was created. And then you also said that the arrangement of that sand on the beach was random. But according to what you had said, what I'm picking up is that what you're saying is there is nothing in this universe that hasn't been created and done intentionally. And if that's true, then you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the sand and the sand castle because they're both created. And so while I agree that there's a difference there and we can see that difference, I don't understand in your explanation to Jamie how you can see the difference.
I can see the difference in the order. When you see the sand on the beach, you know that that order of the sand was a product of natural forces. And when you see the sand castle, then you know intuitively that someone made that sand castle based on your previous experience. You have never seen a sand castle come up to emerge by natural forces in the same sense as you see the beach on the sand.
I agree entirely with that statement, except for the usage of the word intuitively, because in general, the word intuitively is meant to mean like independent of past experience. So by my past experience, my understanding of, beaches and sandcastles, I do, but I wouldn't say that I intuit it. But that's basically...
Yeah, it might be a word game. It might be semantic.
I just mean it is not an understanding that comes without experience.
Okay. Well,
is the only point I'm trying to make there.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, whatever. I give you that, no problem. It doesn't change my point.
Okay. That's
Second
good.
Second example. Let's suppose that you arrive at an abandoned city, and you arrive at the neighborhood, and there you see many different interconnected factories, and there is no people there, and then you have to think about: do you think these factories were made by a community, by people, by engineers, by intelligent people, and then for some reason these factories were abandoned? Or do you think these factories were the result of natural forces, in the same sense as I talked about the sand beach? That means rain and so on.
So
what would you think? Are these factories, were these factories designed or not designed?
So because in the beginning of your example, you say you enter a city, and because we all have a knowledge of what a city is, I know that cities are the creation of human beings. And so in your example, I know that by the definitions you've given and by the descriptions you've given, these things are by definition designed. So to me, your example reads like you come into this place where things are designed by humans. You don't see the humans. Is it designed by humans? And my answer is yes.
But you can make the rational inference that humans, intelligent, designed these factories. Do you agree with me? Even if you did not see the people there, but based on your knowledge and recognition of design, you know that somewhere in the past, somebody must have made these factories. Would you agree with that?
Based on my knowledge of factories and buildings, yes. But based on my knowledge of design as a concept, no.
But based on knowledge of factories, and I mean, so let's move forward. If we need to kind of stick a pin and see if we disagree on something, let's get there. So you've given us two examples, right, of things that we recognize as designed, and you've contrasted one example saying that we can recognize design from not design, and that you recognize everything as designed. You haven't yet given us any examples of something not designed from your worldview according to the way you've described it, but you recognize that there's a difference in the order of that design. Okay. So
I can give you an example based on my worldview.
So,
sure. What is something that is not designed?
What is something that is not created by an intelligence?
Nothing.
Okay. So what is nothing?
the absence of anything.
I think he means there isn't a thing, rather than nothing was created.
No, I think he's using nothing as an example of something that is not created. So what you're saying is either I'm right or nothing can exist at all.
Is that what you're saying, Otangelo?
Is that about right?
Well, you just asked me about an example of something that is not designed, and I gave it to you. Absolutely nothing was not designed because it's the absence of anything.
Sure.
So based on my worldview, absolutely nothing was not designed.
So let's dig into that, right? Yeah. Because what you've done there is you've presupposed that only things that are existent are designed. And you actually need to provide evidence, which in this example, I'm going to tell you is impossible. It's impossible. It's a presupposition that is not falsifiable. And we actually could not move forward on this because I could give you the exact opposite using the exact same rationale, right? I could say that everything is a product of natural forces in the universe. Nothing was designed. An example of a natural force being a tool of an omniscient creator, that example would be nothing. So nothing was ever created by a god, and an example of a thing created by a god is absolutely nothing. And everything else is my worldview. Does that help illustrate to you why that example is not a very good one?
No, I did not follow your reasoning.
So let me put it this way. Otangelo, it's gonna be probably at least two parts. So in the first part, in the example of the sandcastle, and in the other examples you've given, you've said that people are able to infer the difference between something that is designed and something that is not designed. Actually, as a quick clarifying thing, do you think that God...
examples to me that you were able to recognize they were the product most probably of intelligence. You just confirmed it to me. No. So go ahead, please.
Okay, so no, I'm able to recognize things that I have prior knowledge of. So for example, you and I go to an island that is...
You have pre-knowledge. You are able to recognize that the factory your son cost was designed.
Because I know what a factory is.
Yeah, even if you had or did not have pre-knowledge about it, but you were able to recognize it, and that's my whole point.
I disagree. So this is the point where we differ. I do not believe that without prior knowledge, I could tell the difference between a thing that was designed or not. So let me give you an example to demonstrate why I think that is the case. You and I visit an alien world, and for the sake of my example, it is populated by intelligent beings that have built, they have space travel. We met in space on spaceships, and then they're like, hey, come see our planet, which is class M, and you can breathe on it, for the sake of my example. And they say, let's take a walk. And we go walking, and you and I see a thing, and we don't know what it is. In that example, how could we tell the difference? How could we tell whether or not that thing was created by I didn't name my planet.
The aliens or a natural
aliens.
Occurrence on that planet?
Yeah.
Maybe we cannot. I have no idea what kind of thing that would be in order to say it could be recognized as designed or not.
So that's exactly the point I'm making is if you didn't have prior knowledge of the thing, you wouldn't know whether or not it was designed.
You need to learn that.
Yeah. So if that's not something that humans can intuit naturally, then why would you say that we are able to intuit naturally that the universe was created by God, rather than being able to make that distinction based on previous knowledge?
I mean, Jamie, listen, you grew up, and based on that, you gain experience about reality, about the world that surrounds you.
Exactly.
And then, based on this, you can make sense of what you see around you.
Yes, through experience, but not through inference, as far as whether or not something is designed.
No problem. sounds fair to me. I have no problem with that point.
Okay, so then how could I tell that the sand on the beach is created by a god?
I did not say that. It was only the question about contrasting something that was most probably the product of intelligence and something that was most probably the product of random natural forces.
So are the products of...
I gave you nice example.
Okay, so are the products of random natural forces things that were made by God?
Well, I mean, you try to mix two different things, and that brings not much clearance on our thing that we try to clarify. Well, so I would say this. I believe that the universe and everything physical, since it had a beginning, it must have been created. But I would not like to change. I would not like, Jamie, I would not like to change the subject. I would like to stay on the subject which we started with. It was how can we contrast something that was designed from something that was not designed. I gave you two examples which you agreed with me that you would be able immediately to recognize these things, a sandcastle and a complex of interdependent factories would most probably be the product of design based on your experience. Do you agree with that?
I do. So
okay, great.
In a previous call, I think that you told Eric that cells are a series of interconnected factories.
Yes.
So based on my knowledge of factories and my experience and very limited knowledge of biology, I would say that it is most likely that those cells were created as the product of natural forces.
Okay. Do you have a pen and paper?
This might not be a good... if it requires pen and paper, then maybe let's find a different example, because we have a bunch of people who are watching who don't have pens and papers. We have people who are going to be listening to the podcast while they're driving.
Okay, Eric. I will make it very easy for Jamie and for you too.
Sure.
I did this week a small research to know what science says about the minimal necessity of a proteome set or proteins to create life, to maintain the minimal functions of a cell alive. And these studies came up with 560 proteins, which would be a minimal number. Okay?
Hold on.
Think about it.
Hold on.
That's very complex.
So what you're saying, and by the way, I get what you're saying, right? And I would say that ultimately this does chalk up to the argument from incredulity. I don't think that... Well, it's saying, I don't know, or I could not imagine it being this difficult, therefore God, right? But what we're doing right now is we're trying to point back to your initial assertion and show you that what you're doing is you're presupposing this on a basis that actually can't hold water, right? Your basis for this argument is not strong. It does not stand. And we're pointing out why it does not stand. And then we want to get to why, how you could structure this in a way that it would be solid. And what Jamie and I have been doing this whole time is pointing out to you two things, right? Number one, Jamie has been pointing out to you that without knowledge of a thing and without learning about whether or not a thing is the product of creation, intelligence or not, in his alien example, he showed you that there's no way of knowing. And so the idea of intuiting design is absolutely does not hold water. And the second thing that we're telling you, Otangelo, that I brought up is that there's no way in this example, right, of being able to tell the difference between created and non-created things, that you would be able to tell that difference. Because you can give us matters of degrees. You could say, at what stage those things were created. But you're presupposing that there's no way anything can exist without creation. And so if that's the case, then your argument could not be made, because you have no way to tell what a thing that's not created would look like.
Does that make sense?
Well, first of all, let's say the Earth. I say the Earth was created, but the Earth is also inhabited by intelligent beings. So we can contrast the structure of the heads on Mount Rushmore. We know that they were sculptured by people, and the random structure of the rocks on Mount Rushmore. So we know immediately these figures, these heads, they were made by people.
No, Jamie and I know that. According to what you told us, you don't. According to what you told us, there is no difference between those mountains that were not
designed
sculpted
by humans and the rocks
Mount
that
Rushmore
were designed by God.
Because according to you, aren't you saying that they were all created?
We must make a difference between what is the product of a human intelligence and what is the product of
divine intelligence.
Yes! Oh, yes! That is the $10 million question. I love it. Otangelo. Yes! We got there. Jamie.
Yes.
We got there.
We are
Oh,
there.
right. So, how do we tell? How do we tell the difference between what people created and what God created? Because you need to give us an example, right? How
can we tell that difference?
Yeah.
Otangelo?
Oh, here.
How can we tell that difference, Otangelo?
Okay. Can I continue with my explanation?
Well, so the part of your explanation is being able to distinguish whether or not something was created by God. And you've said we can tell the difference between when something is created by humans and when something is created by God. Is that correct?
I say that we can make a distinction, for example, on the beach, if something is the product of natural forces and when it is the product as a suncast of people of intelligence. So we know to distinguish natural forces and intelligence.
Here's my problem again, Otangelo, because we've come back to the same problem. Is the sand on the beach the product of an intelligence?
I think the question is not if the sand as a physical property.
It's the thing that I'm asking.
Is the product? Can I finish? Can I finish, please? You will understand my point. If you ask me if the physical property of the sand is the product of a creator, then I will say yes. If you ask me if the order on the beach of all these trillions of sand particles is the product of a creator or not, then I will say no, it is this order is the product of natural forces.
So the sand on the beach is orderly?
No, it is random.
No, it is not. It is not perfectly random. It is the result of natural forces. And given the starting point of those natural forces, it will create that sand in that way every time.
Yes.
So it is the product in a orderly way of those natural forces.
The structure is, but the sand per se is, as everything else, as everything physical, product of the creator.
So when you say it's the product of the creator, is it according to some order created?
Well, we can start with the fine tuning of quarks, if you want, or atoms, or fine tuning of the Big Bang, or fine tuning of the Earth, or fine tuning of the galaxy, or of the natural laws. We can talk about all this, but I think
I would like to get into that because I think that at the present moment, I think I know that Eric and I. Well,
we are moving the topic.
Yes,
so
the question is,
Otangelo, I think that Otangelo, really quickly.
Okay, hold on, Jamie and Otangelo. I'm stepping in as the ref.
Okay.
We have had a decision, and the decision is both of you are excited to talk and are talking over each other, and we cannot have a conversation. So, as the ref, Otangelo, go ahead and finish your statement, and then we're going to give it to Jamie. I feel like I need a whistle.
Okay.
Burn will kill you.
I would like to return. You asked me about cells.
Okay, Jamie, before we move to cells, is there anything about the prior discussion you were having before we move to cells that you need to get out?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Jamie.
So far in this conversation, I have heard Otangelo say things that I would interpret as saying that the sand on the beach, it's the pattern that it is in is the product of natural forces. And it has sounded like he's distinguished that from it being created. However, I've also heard Otangelo say that God created the universe and that God created everything. And everything presumably includes that beach. So I do not know whether Otangelo believes that that beach was created the way it is or whether that beach was not created the way it is.
So
by an intelligence.
That's answerable by a single yes or no. So Otangelo, if you can give a yes or no, was that created by a that beach the way that it was exactly, with every sand, exactly every grain of sand exactly where it is, by that God, or not? And then we'll move to cells.
It is not static. It is subject to natural forces.
No. Hold on. That's not the question. The question was, did that God arrange that beach? Did that God create that beach or have that beach be made by their own design and plan or whatever to be exactly the way it was with all of those grains of sand? Yes or no, and then we'll move on to cells.
I believe the beach was, as everything else, created by God, but since it is subject to natural forces, it moves constantly, so it is not a static object.
Okay. I think that I understand that. I think that the point of where we're missing each other is that I haven't asked you specifically what the nature of the God that you believe created the universe is. Because it sounds like you might believe in a sort of deist God that created the universe with natural forces and then
pieced out.
Do you believe that God, because what you've said is that you believe that God created the sand and then let it go, right? But presumably God created the rules by which tides would occur and gravity would work.
Right, those natural forces.
Is it?
I believe that, but I also believe in miraculous, rare interventions.
Okay, so that God did not piece out.
Okay.
Where the physical laws are put out of control. So I believe in that too.
So then also, really quickly, did God create like sort of what we describe as the laws of physics, like the fundamental laws of physics, the way that quarks and all of these things work?
Hold on. We might be getting close to off base with fine-tuning. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, that's at the heart of what we're talking about. So did God
of course,
create...
I believe it. Yes.
Okay, so
yes,
does God have knowledge? So when God originally created the world, I actually don't know whether you would say that's 6 or 10,000 years ago or billions of years ago, but when God created the world, did he know how it was going to turn out?
Jamie, we are moving the subject.
Well, no. I'm attempting to understand what you describe as created by God, because you've done something that's relatively unique. At least you've used unique language to describe it, which is distinguishing between things that are created by God and things that are created by natural forces. And so I'm trying to determine whether or not God created those natural forces and whether or not God knew how they would work.
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the case,
I believe so.
then God created that beach knowing exactly how it would end up.
And that would mean, Otangelo, that your example makes zero sense. You're saying, well, of course, the layout of it is, well, no, it's actually still God.
So is what I described accurate as far as what you believe? that God created the natural forces and knew how they would act upon his creation.
Well, if I tell you that God controls every second what happens on the weather and how the cloud moves and every force of each wind and so on, that he is actively involved in all this kind of action, then no, I don't believe that.
Oh.
So, to be clear, do you believe that God is in control of every second and moves the clouds and is in control of every moment of the weather?
Well, being in control does not mean that he is all the time directing the weather like you direct your car.
Okay, so can we tell the difference between when God is changing things? We're a little bit off base
we're down
because
a
we're
rabbit
trying
trail.
to get to creation.
But we're also getting close. We have
close to time,
a bunch of other callers.
We have
Jonathan, Casey, and Mitch, stay on the line. We still want to talk to them.
I think at this point, because I'm still trying to get...
I don't think we ever left the beach.
No,
and I think that's a shame because Otangelo wanted to talk about cells.
I know, but we shouldn't leave the beach before we're ready to leave the beach.
Jeremy, I think the way you are conducting our debate is
a little aggressive.
Is derailing from the purpose, because I called to talk about irreducible complexity, and you are trying to talk about completely different things. Last time I told to Eric that I would try at least to see if we can stay on topic on just one issue.
And I agree.
The way you are doing.
So, Otangelo, hold on,
Here's
Jamie.
what I will say. Then let's move to irreducible complexity.
Yeah, we're moving to cells. I will say Jamie is a very curious person, and he does that shit to me all of the time. It is impossible. I talked to him the other night, and I was really tired. I wanted to go home, and I was like, I'm done. I'm ready to go. And Jamie talked for another 45 minutes. It is not okay. It is okay. It is not on you, and I don't want you to think it's dishonest because it's just Jamie. And I love you, Jamie.
And I know I sort of dominated where that topic went for a good portion of the time. I just sort of wanted to see if I could get somewhere with that.
Yeah. So, Otangelo, we're going to leave you with a statement. I want you to be able to say what you want to say, and I want to be able to discuss this the way you want to talk about it, because we got off the rails, and we're not going to do that again next time. So, Otangelo, I'm going to say one thing, and that is that Richard Dawkins wrote a book called The Blind Watchmaker, and The Blind Watchmaker is awesome, and it discusses exactly what you're talking about, uses a lot of the exact same examples that you're talking about, and I would highly suggest that you check that book out. But I want to give you the last word, and then we're going to move on. Go ahead, Otangelo. What do you want to leave us with about irreducible complexity?
How many minutes do you give me without interrupting me?
Well, so what I would say is actually, I think because we're coming to the end of the show and because we like to clear out the call and because I dominated a lot of that conversation by focusing on the beach, I'm really sorry to ask this. Otangelo, is it possible, as well as for us to sort of wrap up this conversation, for you to call back in next week when I will not,
I'll have my finger on his mute button.
No, you
like that.
No,
and
you
it
won't.
will be great.
Stop it! Don't do that. I'm sorry, Otangelo. I really did dominate your time. Is it possible for you to call back next week as well?
I could, of course, I can call back next week.
Thank you.
Now, if Eric gives me about 2-3 minutes, I would like to make a final statement to leave for the audience that they can think about what I would like to say.
I would love to, but my producer is in my ears saying, Eric, you need to move to the next call.
He's really...
he's going to kick my butt. He has threatened to end the show before we can say goodbye. So I unfortunately don't have that power. I'm blaming it on my producer.
Because that's
who's
where
a big
the blame is deserved. He's talking to my her.
Otangelo, I can't wait to talk to you. I think you were an honest interlocutor.
Yeah.
I think that your wanting to discuss these things was fantastic, and I think that I want to continue this conversation and listen to what you have to say. I apologize that we got off the rails. We're going to do better next time.
You are a very good caller, and I feel really bad for changing the course of that conversation.
Okay.
Take care, brother.
Thank
Hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you very much for time and talk to you next time.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we still have Jonathan, Casey, and Mitch on the line. Jonathan, Casey, and Mitch, we are taking you. We're not going to be going to Patreon. We're going to be doing this for everybody because you all deserve it. So we are going to be running long. And before we do that, though, I want to thank those patrons because our patrons are amazing.
3 more calls.
Yes. So I want to thank our top 5. Our number 1 is Neil. As always, Neil, you're amazing. Thank you.
What's up, Neil?
I want to thank Matt Meyer, Nando Gonzalez, Lynette Cross, and Joe Roll. That's Neil Bradley, Matt Meyer, Nando Gonzalez, Neil Cross, and Joe Roll.
Are those last 2 new?
I've seen Lynette, but I haven't seen Joe Roll.
Joe Roll.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being one of our top 5 patrons. Yeah. If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. Jamie, who are we moving to next?
Sorry, I just have playing in my head now every time.
Got it.
Let's
no worries. It's okay.
Take
Somebody
either
had
3 or 6.
Okay.
Let's take 3.
All right. Before we move to Casey, I got to tell you in the live chat, when I got really, really excited, somebody said, "Oh, Eric got the item and now he's activated." And I couldn't help, but think of myself as in Smash Brothers with the hammer. Yeah. So anyway,
Casey in North Dakota, you're on with Jamie and Eric. What did you want to talk about today?
Good afternoon, guys.
Hello.
Try to make this about as quick as possible.
All right.
Running along, but
sure.
No, I was just the other day. I was watching a clip of a previous episode, and after watching it and listening in on it, my son, who was 15, came up and just kind of asked, "Am I an atheist?"
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I asked him, "Well, what do you believe? What is your stance on this? Mm-hmm. Do you believe that a God exists or gods exist or anything like that?" And he said, "No, I don't." So essentially, I said, basically, that's what an atheist is.
Yep.
I tried to kind of explain to him a little bit more about my stance as an atheist, because I've been an atheist for a few years now, as well as my wife, who's been an atheist for quite a few years. And I think I may have butchered some of the explanation a little bit. I'm not the greatest at public speaking or getting a lot of my points across. Okay. So I was just looking for he was just wondering what an atheist can be, or what resources that him at 15 he could look for to help educate himself as an atheist.
Okay. So let's do this in 2 parts. So I want to help you because you're the caller, and then at the end we'll throw out some resources for your son, if that works for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you describe to me what your position is on atheism, the one that you were attempting to fill your son in, and when there's something that's unclear, or I think that there's a problem, I'll jump in or ask a question. So what is your position on stuff?
Well, to me, I don't believe that there is any demonstrable evidence that a god or gods exist. Okay. And personally, I believe, or I think that religion as a whole, or organized religion, would be through indoctrination, brainwashing, whatever you want to call it, is a subliminal or slight form of almost child abuse. They're not given the choice into what they are allowed to believe or not. They're just said, "Hey, your mom and dad are Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever. That's essentially what you're going to be," and they're going to fall into that pattern. But then he's now kind of looking at things in a different way by asking questions, and I want to be able to foster that.
Okay. I just would push back a little bit on the definition, but I want you to move forward.
Okay.
The definition that you gave about religion, I just would push back just a little bit in that there's a slight implication of intent that most of the time isn't there. I agree that it's there in some cases where people are behaving dishonestly, but I think most of the time when you're talking to somebody who is religious, someone who's Christian, somebody who's Muslim, or whatever the case may be, that they're using the best tools that they have at their disposal, that they really think that based upon how they understand the universe to work. And so I don't think that you have a lot of dishonesty, you know, which I think is implicit. I think that you can absolutely abuse a child unintentionally.
Yeah.
And so I just want to draw the distinction that I don't think there's a lot of, you know, intentional misdirection in the church or in religion in general. I think a lot of people are just using the best tools that they have, and a lot of those tools just are not very good. But please continue.
Okay. No, and I totally agree with you. I just may not have got my point across exactly as I could have. I'm not a great speaker, so
no, it's all good.
So I think Abe was jumping in on the word child abuse.
Yeah, but that's all.
Yeah, understandable.
Okay. Go ahead.
So it's a trigger word. So
right.
Anyway, so I don't have a lot of, I guess, a lot of material that he may understand to better further his education in this aspect. He's not with me all the time. He usually, most of the time, he's with his mother. We've been divorced for a number of years. So I'd only get him every so often. I want to be able to leave him with some tools to help better educate himself. And I just don't know exactly if there's any good or what good tools for his age group maybe at 15.
Well, so
is it too self-serving if we say he should watch our show?
Well, I think
he's watching it right now.
Yeah, dig it. Hey.
Hello, son.
Hello.
Casey.
So two things. Number one, Parenting Beyond Belief is a show at the ACA, and they talk about this stuff every week. I think it'd be a great show to call into for that. Neither of us are parents, but I can give you the best advice that I have. And the best advice that I have is it's absolutely fantastic to foster questioning. Say, hey, I don't know that either. Let's look it up. Or even if you do know that and you don't know why you know that, let's look it up together. Right. Let's actually go out and have fun and dig in and learn how to study things. It's a wonderful exercise that everybody should be doing. And that is absolutely something that you can model.
Right. And that's what I told him last night after I realized I was maybe not portraying or expressing myself the best way possible. Was the best thing you can do is ask. Keep asking those questions. Don't just accept something to accept it.
Right.
So, okay.
And definitely call into Parenting Beyond Belief. And there's a book by Dale McGowan called Parenting Beyond Belief. And
show that its name as well.
It helps, and Dale's actually one of the hosts on that show.
So what I would say is that's good advice for Casey, but as far as resources for your son, there's sort of two subjects that I heard you describe when you were talking about what you talked about with your son. They're very closely related, and so they get sort of muddled, which is whether or not you believe a God exists and what effect you believe religion has on society. So,
right.
Right, like I can believe that golf isn't really that great a sport, but that, golf... I was about to say golf clubs, but I mean like groups that play golf are, a way that business occurs and therefore useful for society, although I think they take up too much land. The point being that it's an example of the difference between believing, having opinions about the effect of a human institution and, having metaphysical claims or not accepting metaphysical claims about the nature of the universe. Okay. So what is true is one thing to approach. And I feel like, education on skepticism, there's all of the things that are produced by the ACA, as well as the podcast, The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is pretty good. It's also pretty science-y. Yeah. However, if you are also wanting to provide information about what effect religion and organizing around religious beliefs has had on the world, I would recommend God Is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything by Christopher Hitchens, because that's actually a pretty detailed, erudite accounting of all of the things that religious organizing has how that's affected the modern world. As far as, philosophy and epistemology, I think explaining, question everything, determine what you believe is true about claims about reality, whether or not this mug exists, based on evidence.
And two other things for your son specifically. Mm-hmm. Number one, Casey's son. Go to other churches.
His name is James. If you don't.
Hey, James. James.
Well,
go to different churches. Go see how the other half lives. There's nothing wrong with exploring and questioning, and it's absolutely only going to help you better understand the world around you if you see how other people behave and interact. You don't need to be a jerk about it. You can be respectful, go in, and just see how it is. And then the other thing is, and I'm sure I don't need to tell him, there's tons of resources. There are some amazing science communicators on YouTube. There's some great debates. There's a wealth of knowledge out there that you can explore and check out, but just make sure that you're not being force-fed something and you don't know why. Ask those questions. It's fantastic to be able to do that. I'll tell you right now, that's all I do. Whenever I have the extra time, I'm popping up Holy Kool-Aid or Genetically Modified Skeptic. I'm learning about how cults, bring people in. I'm learning about how, hucksters have fooled people into thinking that magic exists. I love learning about how those kinds of things happen, how the world works, and that science. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. Yeah. Definitely. I don't think I need to tell your son to watch more YouTube, but it actually helps.
Not a problem.
That natural curiosity is something you should absolutely foster and dig in. Go ahead, Jamie.
The most important place to start is a solid epistemology and skepticism and learning to doubt yourself, because it's something that, for the most part, most people, I think, should improve on, and it's something that's difficult for everyone. And the moment that you think, oh no, I've got a handle on this, is the moment that you start down the path to believing whatever trutherism you want to name, particularly on YouTube, because there's a lot of things like that. I would say, as far as YouTube is concerned, it would also be helpful to check out Captain Disillusion, because there's lots of videos of
Dark Matter 2525.
But I would say Captain Disillusion, because it's a entirely different sort of approach, which is just, hey, you saw a video on YouTube. It's probably bullshit.
How can you tell?
Look at this phenomenon. Oh, look, the plane has frozen still in the sky. It's a glitch in the Matrix. That one annoys me the most.
But moving on.
But not moving on, because it's incredibly important, particularly if your resource is YouTube. You have to be aware of what content you're being fed, because you can be shown, particularly if you're not aware of things, a lot of crap that can pull you in, right? I think there was a point in time after I deconverted, while I was still learning to be a good skeptic, where a particular disingenuous, I'll use the word documentary because that's the way it describes itself, persuaded me that there was a problem in our schools as far as the approach to teaching intelligent design. Because I started off curiosity and I hadn't strengthened my skepticism yet. The world is an interesting and dangerous place, and the best tool you have to learn about it is scientific skepticism. There's also, holy shit, how have I not said this? There's the, because I don't remember the name. Fuck.
No worries.
It's great courses on skepticism. I'll post about it everywhere that I can post things. Facebook, Twitter, at Jamie the Heathen.
Yeah, one of the best ways we can describe skepticism is I am not 100% certain that I exist.
Well,
right, but I need to. I live.
I don't know if you exist either.
Right, I live in such a way that I have to assume that I do. And that assumption isn't on nothing. That assumption is on the best evidence that I have. But if you were to give me sufficient evidence, I could be persuaded to believe otherwise, because I just want to know what is true. And so if I am living in a world where I'm not 100% that I exist, then that skepticism gives me the ability to try my best to question everything, because when I stop questioning things, that's when you get dogma, and that's when you get down the wrong hole. But Casey, we want to move on to the next two callers. Thank you so much for calling, and we hope this helped.
Yeah, and let us know how it's going.
Guys, keep up the good work. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. We love the show.
I love you too, man. Yay. All right, Jamie.
All right, let's take...
I think I've been a little more mean to you than I should have been on this episode.
No,
and I didn't want to wait until after the episode to tell that to you. The people here should know. I'm sorry, Jamie. You had a couple really good examples, and I tried to shift you off of them, and I apologize.
You've preempted me disagreeing with your loose use of the word skepticism after the show. And
All right. You want to take the next, you want to pick the next caller?
Let's take.
We have. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a hard cutoff.
And then Jonathan, we do want to talk to you, so stay on the line, please.
Yes. All right, Mitch
in Illinois.
How are you doing?
How you doing, guys?
Hey.
We're doing well. It says right here, creationist girlfriend, and you wanted to relate your experience and get tips.
Yes, I do. Correct? Actually, if I could have a couple quick preliminary things first.
Yeah, real quick.
Really quickly, can I just preface this? I'm so sorry, but we just took a call asking for parenting advice, and we are not parents.
Oh, yeah.
And you're calling asking for relationship advice from two single people. So
I've been not single.
We are going to do our absolute best, but we are not liable if we fuck up your relationship.
Contact me on Twitter at
no worries.
All right.
Heathen. I'm very
just kind of want to preface that.
Right. So what I will say is I've been in a relationship before. She doesn't live in Canada. It's also not, well, whatever.
Her name is Alberta.
Yeah. Her name is Alberta. She lives in Vancouver. Girlfriend. All right. So Mitch, you had a story about your creationist girlfriend.
Yes. Really quick, though, I just want to get a couple things out of the way first. Eric, okay. I heard you were in a car accident recently, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I hope you're doing better, and I hope if anything else is wrong, you get well soon.
Thank you, brother. I'm healing. I'm not 100%. The outpouring of support is enough to make you cry. I had no idea that so much love could exist and more or less be sent my direction. It's truly humbling. I actually just recently got a vehicle. And you know what, actually, I'm going to give them a shout because it came up naturally on the show. Yep. Neoclassics. Neoclassics.
Sold him a Ford Pinto, 1970.
In Cleveland, Ohio, Neoclassics.
They didn't sell it.
No, but they gave me a deal that was so amazing that I flew to Ohio to go and pick it up.
Yes.
Charlie, you and your wife, Ellen, are
amazing.
Just fantastic, amazing human beings. Mm-hmm. There's no way I would have been able to get a car as
snazzy
and as safe as that without that kind of support, and it's because of Talk Heathen. So to all of you watching, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much. If you're in Ohio, you definitely should give that guy a call because he's pretty awesome.
Give him your business. He's great.
Yeah. So thank you for checking in. Go ahead.
So Mitch, creationist girlfriend.
Yes. I'm sorry. Really quick next thing with EF, and I'm sorry to bring him up again. I don't want him getting any more attention than
as long as it's quick.
But yeah, I think he's presenting his argument, his absolute non-contingent stuff. I think he's presenting that as a he's presupposing that the laws of logic and nature are prescriptive instead of descriptive, I believe. So I think that's where like the impasse is in that conversation.
Well, I think he's doing along those lines, but I would say that the impasse is that he presupposes the existence of a God as the explanation for those.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, of course.
Which is the difference.
Okay, that was all I wanted to say about that.
Okay.
And now on to this. I was wondering if you guys can help me real quick find whoever gives out the Convert a Fundamentalist Merit Badges.
Ooh. Is that a thing?
Can I have one?
I hope so.
Ooh, we should do that.
It was mostly just a joke, but
I mean,
you should. That'd be great.
I mean, could you imagine like Boy Scouting out just a sash? Well, just scouting out like a sash and having like all the different merit badges. You and I could come on dressed like African military leaders with just a bajillion.
I'm saving that for when I take over the show via coup. But I'm sewing my outfit now. Watch out! If I had a sewing machine, it would have already happened. So
there you go, guys. Next merch idea.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry, Mitch.
Thank you. That if you design that merit badge and it doesn't cost $1 million, I might very well buy it.
I'll look into it, I guess. Yeah. But what I really wanted to say was, I think I might have been a little bit misleading by the call screener, and I apologize for that. Mm-hmm. But the girl I'm dating now is actually no longer a creationist, and I believe no longer a Christian either.
Hey,
congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah. Really, because of the talks we've had and things like that.
Hey,
rock on, brother, dude.
So you brought up the merit badge.
Yeah, you get a merit badge.
With some self-interest in mind. You went, hey, by the way, let me call in. Do you guys make merit badges?
Well,
I see where this is.
The ability
cheers,
to have...
though. You've definitely earned it.
So what I wanted to... I'm sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. So basically what I wanted to say is So I called in last year around July. I don't know if you guys remember me at all, but I did talk to both of you. And I had just come out on like social media, and actually a week after that, I had started a atheist page on Instagram just to like post about my thoughts, different arguments, and things like that. And when we started dating, I would periodically ask her questions about this, that, and the other thing. Even stuff from the Ken Ham Bill Nye debate.
Oh yeah, this is sounding much more familiar now. Sorry.
Yes, I was. I was the RE guy. You remember?
I did not
at the
remember
moment.
that
I do
name,
not remember, but I'm sorry.
This call sounds familiar. But anyway, continue.
No, you're fine. Right. Yeah. So I would just. I would be asking her questions periodically and things like that, and I would get into arguments with people on Instagram that would comment on my posts and things, and I would share my arguments with her, and she would agree with me like 9 out of 10 times, and sometimes it'd even give me points that I didn't even think of. But we watched what is it called, The Da Vinci Code recently. And they get like actually an okay amount of things right in there. Like it's not horribly inaccurate.
The Da Vinci Code? Okay, I'm sorry. I feel like this is a rabbit trail that Jamie is going to jump out of his skin to talk about.
Sort of I remember the second one because it has much more Vatican intrigue and law, and that's what interests me more. My understanding is that the first one was, by the way, what was your point? What was your point?
Yeah.
What was your point?
Sorry, we only have so much time. And
it is a rabbit hole that I will go down.
Yeah.
What was it?
Because we do have one more caller that we want to get to, and I definitely want to talk to you about this.
We have gotten a hard stop from our producer. He will just put up the credits at the hard stop, regardless of what we do.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I appreciate your time, guys.
No. You were still making a statement.
I just want to get to the...
we want to get to the...
Yeah.
Right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So basically my point is, I guess if we're talking about like tips and stuff, what I found was effective was just kind of like coming at it with a genuine attitude and asking questions that are like really intriguing and trying to get down to the base of it, more like what you guys do, obviously.
Try to.
Yeah. But I just, as a quick side note, I just want to commend your guys' patience, because when I haven't really been posting on that Instagram account recently, but when I would just lose my patience so easily with things I had heard a million times. So I give you guys kudos for that. You guys are incredibly patient.
Well, thank you. I know I lost my temper a good bit the last time that I was on. But I appreciate it.
Sorry.
I'm going to do my best to earn that compliment.
Of course. Yeah, we're all human. Obviously.
So humble all the time.
Hey, Mitch, rock on for having those conversations with your girlfriend. I think that's really awesome. Definitely, it's not just about being right. It's about helping instill somebody and with a thirst for knowledge and a want and a skeptical, outlook to make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of. And if you watch this show and you're a fan of what we're doing, I know that you're probably already doing it. And that is fantastic. We're arming the world with better tools to understand the world around them. I love it. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you for helping.
Yeah. I appreciate all the work that you guys do. Yeah. And I guess I'll cut it off here to go.
Tell your girlfriend she's welcome to call and share the experience from her side.
Yep.
From her point of view.
Of course. Yeah. I was gonna suggest it to her. So I definitely will. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Please do. All right.
Just got, looks like Charlie and Ellen from Cleveland are watching right now. So I love that. We've got one more caller.
One more caller. We're going to need every minute.
Yes. Right. Jonathan in Arizona. You've called in before, and I'm sorry that we don't have a whole lot of time.
But we do have 10 minutes.
No, we don't. We have like 6, and then we've got to do other things. But
do we have more announcements?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you? Okay.
Yeah, don't sweat it. The original reason I called in about the going back to the stuff that we had previously talked about, the moral stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put that on hold. I'll give you guys a call back because obviously we don't have time and stuff. I stayed on the line just because.
You waited for so long. Now I really do feel like a dick.
Hey, well, we'll get him next week, and he's being polite, and we can make Mark slightly happy a little bit, maybe. So.
No trouble. I'll try and give you guys a call again. The reason why I stayed on the line actually was I wanted to kind of comment on something that you had said to Arielle earlier, Eric. Like on a personal note with you, when you said like you suffer with like clinical depression. Mm-hmm. There's I don't know if I would call it a philosophy. It's something I heard when I was younger because I grew up with really, really low self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And I heard something that it as soon as I heard it and thought about it, it was literally like an overnight thing where I completely changed. And I have not since had low self-esteem. And it could be something that could benefit you as well. And you may have even heard it too, but it's like the philosophy, if I'm going to call it philosophy, is it's only a big deal if you make it one.
That reminds me of a book that I read as a teenager. It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very similar.
It definitely helps.
Well, for
wow,
sure.
that is really kind of you to share. And especially, I mean, for people to know, Jonathan, you're a religious caller. This was a perfect opportunity for you to call in and say, well, you need God in your life, and that's all the problems with you. And, minimize my...
Well, which God?
Well, minimize my autonomy, minimize my humanity. And the fact that you decided to go, hey, reach out in a very human and caring way. Gosh, that says a lot
for your character. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, man. It was just, to me, it's something that I felt it was important enough to, because I actually have to get going too, but it was important enough to wait it out and at least share that 2 cents with you and hope it makes any kind of an impact on you so you don't have to, go through what you are going through, man, because that does suck and I feel for you.
The funny thing is that kind of depression isn't reliant on going through bad things. It's just the state of depression. Everything could be going great, and that just happens. It's not something that I base my identity around because I'm much more complex as a human. But it is something that I don't want to not talk about because I think that we stigmatize it so much that it's worth bringing up so that people can know that they're not alone in it.
And I think another good. I think it's also really good that you do mention it because, just from watching you on the show and everything, and I'm sure in your personal life, people who know you very well, we would never guess it, from your demeanor and character and personality. So it's kind of a good way to let other people know that they're not alone. And that's not something that they should try and hide or feel bad about. So you're kind of, I'm sure you're being inspirational to those who are going through what you're going through.
I really hope so, man. I really hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure. Last thing, I guess I didn't have. That was really the only thing I wanted to say. But when Mitch just a second ago mentioned the Da Vinci Code, and I'm not going to go into anything like detailed or anything. He said him and his girlfriend that watched the Da Vinci Code, and he thought it was a prehistorical representation of what he believed the movie was about. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Bart Ehrman. One of my favorite books that I've read several times of his is called The Truth and Fiction in the Da Vinci Code. Fantastic book, and it describes how the historical inaccuracies of Dan Brown's book. And that Bart Ehrman had no intention of writing anything about it, but his editor told him he should.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because Bart Ehrman was like, well, what? It's just a book, it's fiction. But the problem is that in the beginning of Dan Brown's books, he actually put that it's a historical, accurate representation of Christianity and antiquity and stuff when it couldn't be anything further from the truth. Very good book if you guys ever had to get a chance to find it. It's definitely worth the read.
It can be a very engaging work of fiction. Yes. like Harry Potter.
But
I'm not comparing quality.
I mean, it totally depends on exactly what you want to talk about in it. You know. Okay, I disassembled a pen and Jamie took it away from me.
You disassembled my pen.
Whatever, Jamie.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Whatever, it's fine. It's
so,
not
Jonathan,
all of the,
you wanted to call in to talk about objective morality, and my views on objective morality and what that means changed. And I would love to talk to you about it next week if you call in.
Yeah.
I will absolutely try.
Love it. All right, you take care. Have a good week, brother.
Thank you, guys, too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
For a split second, I thought you were going to try and go into the call. And I was like, at the beginning of the call, you went, no, we've got like 4 minutes to talk about objective morality. And then he said, oh, yeah, I'll call back next week then. I'm super awesome. And
no worries.
Great. That's what the caller said. And I was like, now that we have a minute.
No worries.
Right. So I believe that we have some final announcements, other than to remind people again that this upcoming Thursday, we have a Shelley Siegel concert that's amazing and that tickets are still available.
And that we also have a Q&A on Discord with Christy Powell coming up this upcoming weekend at noon. I still haven't found out whether or not it's Saturday or Sunday. If it's Sunday, I'm going to get pissed off. So let's just hope it's Saturday, and we'll find out. I will. We'll post that out on social media. The newsletter's out. We have an amazing live studio audience who came out in the rain and the cold. We have the most incredible people on the other side of this wall who make this happen. Yes. Can we move that camera over? Oh,
we don't have
the camera.
What I will say
Mark,
is, as far as the live studio audience goes, they watched all of the calls that you watched. So if you found one that's boring, just imagine that you were sitting next to strangers. So,
also, Megan, who's another host on Secular Sexuality, who's going to be at the live show on Thursday, screened the calls today for us. Megan, you're amazing.
She's right there. So. Yay!
We've had some incredible people who are donating in the live chat. Thank you so much. We saw it. I saw it. I just didn't see a good time to jump in and say thank you. Thank you so much to all of you who've donated in the live chat. And Matt Dillahunty's flipping me off. Fuck you, Matt.
Wait.
You want to go?
Why is Matt flipping you off?
I don't know. We'll talk about it. We'll talk. That's fine.
Yeah.
I like
whatever.
you,
Yeah.
Matt. We're at his house playing
great
games.
Parenting.
Right.
Yeah.
So other than that, I think we're pretty good to go. Is there anything else?
Are we pretty good to go?
No, I think we are. So
if you don't believe in the community here, if you do believe we don't hate you, we just think you're wrong. Bye.
They love me more. If you don't believe you have
Mark,
community
that
here.
was the perfect time for you to cut it.
And if
you gotta
you do,
have your finger on the button, because I'm going to try and sneak in.
And
if you don't believe you have community here, if you do believe we don't hate you,
we just think you're wrong.
But you got to cut it off before he says it.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Mark likes you more.